Hey, look at that. I finally got around to playing MinerVGA. This one was back in '89, and it's one of the first PC titles I remember playing. There was this, and I'm trying to remember the names of them. They were all made by like the same guy or group. There was like a pinball and some maze titles, and they all had pretty simplistic graphics. Anyway, this was one of my favorites, MinerVGA, and the help screen kind of shows you some of the shortcut keys. We've got up here at the top from right to left, we've got the general store, the bar, the bank, and the hospital. All of these except for the bar, really, are kind of important to the game. You'll notice here that you can buy a bunch of different tools, and to start off with, we're going to want to buy a shovel pick, the torch, and the lantern. Essentially, from the help screen, you learn that the shovel and the pick help you dig for cheaper, whereas the torch and the lantern help you discover these little objects here and reveal them. Without either the torch or the lantern, you would not see any of these little gray dots that appear, and you would essentially be wasting a lot of time in this game, so definitely make sure you have one of those. Each of these little gray dots, as they're showing up, are, well, I guess they're supposed to be minerals. They're actually just kind of events or objects in the mine, and they start off as just these gray rocks, which means nothing to you because you don't actually know what those are yet. The only way to reveal it without running into them and possibly hurting yourself in the process is to kind of jiggle around in front of them. Essentially, every time you step in front of one, there's a chance that you reveal what that object is. The gray dot is essentially an unknown object, and stepping in front of it has a chance to reveal what it is. So far, we've run into some sandstone, that brownish, red, gravel-looking stuff there. The gray slab-looking objects are granite slabs, which you can only clear out with, I believe, dynamite or a drill. The grayish looking gravel that we just ran into there is volcanic stone, which takes more money to get rid of than any of the other earth types. The rock looking objects, there's one directly beneath the general store there, is the cave-in or the rock slide, which if you run into that square in particular, it will fill all the areas around it with new earth squares, which can be kind of helpful sometimes, especially when you're running low on earth squares to actually dig up, but it also causes you damage, so you don't want to do that on purpose too often. It'll never pay off for you in the end. The game consists of essentially digging around in the earth to find these little gray stones, and then vibrating in front of them until they reveal something that you actually want to pick up. This doesn't always occur, of course, because if it did, then, you know, mining would be pretty easy, and everybody would make a living off of it. So essentially all you do is dig around, look for spots, and hope that you turn up lucky and can get some minerals that you can go back to the bank with, which we will be doing here shortly after I attempt to reveal. Yeah. The bank here, as we go inside, we'll have the quotas for the day, or not the quotas, the quotes. It shows you the general selling price for each individual unit of the material. Silver, you'll see at 19, is actually pretty good. I believe it gets up to maybe about 22 at the most or so, and it can go as low as 10. So unless you're really desperate for money, you want to make sure you sell at the higher end of the range, not the lower end. Gold usually can get up around 60 at the higher end, although anything in the higher 50s is good too. Platinum gets up to around 280, 290 sometimes, but it'll go as low as like 230. Still, platinum is going to be what makes you the most amount of money in this game. So if you get lucky and find a lot of platinum, you are going to win big points. Because that's, well, essentially all platinum is in this game. Oh, hey, I totally forgot to describe the fact that we were buying a stick of dynamite. You need the torch to set off said dynamite, and you need to have a direct right path from wherever you're going to set off the dynamite, because your character will only run in the right direction, and you need to make sure you have plenty of space. Otherwise, you will get caught up in the blast and take damage. Depending on how close you are to the blast, you can take quite a bit of damage. Normally, you can get up to anywhere from 70 to 90% of your life if you're too close to said dynamite when you set it off. So, hey, don't do that. These blue squares are possibly the worst of the events or items to show up on the board. Those are springs. They are similar to the rock slide squares in that they fill squares around them with material, except these fill up the area with water, and the water you can only get rid of with a bucket as well. Any chance, or anytime you run into said little spring, there is a chance that you will lose an object into said water rush when it comes out, which can be very expensive. So don't do it. Especially since, like I said, money is the key to this game. It is your score. It is what lets you progress deeper into the mine. You do need to make as much of it as you can. You'll see here both gold and silver are real low. I really don't even want to sell anything at this point, but well, I get rid of silver so I can have some more capital, just enough money that I can buy a new torch. And back into the earth we go. And yep, here's where I show off the trick to get past spending money on the elevator. Anytime you go into the earth, it costs you about 30 bucks. But if you hit the B button, which takes you to the very bottom of your elevator shaft, as deep as it'll go currently, you will bypass that square that charges you the money. It's like the very top square below the ground. That's where the money gets charged. So anytime you hit the B and skip past that, you will essentially bypass that charge and save yourself 30 bucks. So I definitely suggest hitting B every time you go in there. I know it's kind of a little cheap, or kind of taking advantage of a bug, but in all honesty, do you pay $30 to ever get on an elevator? Or, drive your car anywhere besides filling up with gas, of course? I mean, do you just pay $30 to get on the road? Or to go in a store, even? I mean, that would be foolish. So, I say nay to elevator charges. You'll notice that my lantern just got used up, and yes, things, especially the burning things, will get used up while you're rolling around in the earth, which is unfortunate because those things cost a lot of money. You don't want that. But it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So, I always make sure that I'm carrying both the torch and the lantern. Unless I, have already revealed some rocks, there's not really any reason for me to stick around. So I'm gonna go dump off some more more minerals. I've only got gold really, for the time being. And hey, gold's on the higher end of the spectrum this time around, so let's sell it. Might as well get rid of silver too. 16 is not too terrible. You can do worse. So we're gonna come back in and pick up a lantern. Maybe dynamite? Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, dynamite does cost 300 a pop, but on the other hand, sometimes it'll blow up a big enough square that it'll... Oh. You'll notice that the possession that I just lost was in fact the dynamite. This is it's quite a crappy occurrence, especially early in the game like this. It's very difficult to bank money when you're losing $300 in objects into the water. It does happen. You're going to accidentally, especially if you're just digging normally, unless you really want to take the time to jiggle in front of every little square before you dig, you will kind of accidentally run into those squares every once in a while. It's gonna happen. I mean, it's just bad luck. You can get around it, like I said, if you really want to take the time, but the game, this particular video is going to be a lot of dancing around as it is. I really don't want to show off me dancing around in front of every single square just to make sure. So we're kind of just showing off some of the. Oh, and there it is again. The spring is, as I said, the worst of the tiles. It's the one thing you want to avoid running into, because it can ruin a lot of things. As you can see, it's flooded. It does have me kind of cut off from that one square, and I guess if I really wanted to, I could go buy a bucket and get rid of some of that water up there. But for the time being, that's kind of again a waste of money. You really don't ever have to get rid of water unless it happens to be blocking things off. I believe you can get trapped by water, however, which will ultimately kill you. But for now, I'm fortunately lucky enough to not have that happen. Now, I do believe the deeper you go, the higher chance you do have of finding the rare minerals. However, it's not a huge difference. It's not something that you're going to, you know, want to go straight down to the bottom just to find all the platinum in the game. You're not. It's not. It isn't Minecraft. You're not going to go down there and just find diamonds. Although diamonds do exist at the lower levels. There are a few items that are hidden only in the earth. You can't buy them anywhere. There is the diamond, which I believe you can sell for a few $1,000s to the bank. I'm not 100% sure on that. I believe you can also give it to somebody at the bar, and that's like kind of the good ending, I guess. But again, it's kind of waste. The score is pretty much the entire game, so make sure you sell it to the bank and don't give it away. You notice I teleported up to the top there, and that's another little exploit I guess you can use in the game. The T button lets you hop up to the very top of the elevator shaft, but the game doesn't really care if you're in the elevator or not. You can just hit T and go up to the very top level, regardless of where you're at. So, if you ever do get trapped by water, you can always hit the T button and teleport back up to the top. One of the accidental features that I'm showing off here is the save feature. You can actually save and come back and play this game later if you really wanted to. It is pretty neat that an early game like this had a save function. Again, it's not really a game that you're gonna spend a lot of time playing. It's kind of just for the score, just for the points, for the exploration factor. And since there's not a lot to explore, it's kind of, you know, it's one of those games that I kind of come back to every once in a while just to see if I can do any better. And here we have the hospital, which shows off the amount of days rest you need. Every day is $100, and you will never really get back to 100. Well, you can get it back to 100%, but it's really unnecessary because, like I said, not like I said, like I'm going to say, there's not a lot that can do a ton of damage to you in this game, other than standing right next to dynamite, which, well, you'll learn quickly not to do. The only things that actually do damage to you is the water and the rock slides, and they only do maybe 7 or so damage each time. So it's not something, unless you unless you just so happen to hold down like the directional key and run into something several times repeatedly by accident, you'll be alright. And here I'm showing off the drill. The drill lets you get rid of the slabs of oops. They let you get rid of these slabs of granite, and it's kind of a waste. And I also picked up one of the hidden items, which is the pump. Unfortunately, to use said pump, I need a bucket. So, well, if I had more money, I probably would have bought one at this point. But for now, just trust me, the water bucket will let you pump water out when using the pump. It's, again, not something that actually helps you in any way. It's a very situational thing. Ooh, excuse me. So it's not something you're going to use a lot of. Most of the game is this: exploring, vibrating, and running back up to the surface. There are a few things you can mess around with in the bar. Again, none of it is actually important to you as far as the game goes. You can like get a meal and a drink. You can have you can talk to one of the I don't know if it's barmaids or if there's actually a prostitute there. I don't remember what it is, but it's something ridiculous. You can buy condoms, I guess, is the one item you can actually buy out of the place. And it gives you a goofy little message if you don't buy a condom and try to sleep with people. Which I kind of thought was hilarious as a kid, because I actually didn't understand, what that was at age 9. So, getting a VD was, a funny ha 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 moment, and then back to the actual mining. Or, when I say mining, I mean vibrating back and forth. The mining dance, the way in which all miners discover minerals hidden in the earth. For some reason I thought that would be a great place to use dynamite, so I used the drill and got rid of that particular space there, so I can set that up. It's generally a good idea to kind of set up places for dynamite, but it's not something you really have to do. Like I said, it is kind of costly. If you're not finding a lot of materials, your best bet is not to really go and waste time using dynamite. However, I'm not very lucky with the ore so far, so I'm back up at the top to sell my ore minerals off again, and we'll see if we can't. I also kind of keep running into the losing torches and lanterns, just particularly the lantern. It's $300 a pop, and you really need to have it around. It will happen, but I mean, generally by this point you do have a decent amount of money, or enough to at least cover some of those accidental losses or the inevitable losses, and enough to keep digging around, which unfortunately I keep running low on. But the one bright side to using dynamite, there's almost always a nugget of gold in the middle. And all the little brown spaces that are left behind after using said dynamite are going to be little rocks, or the minerals, the discoverables, anyway, to dance around in front of. So it can pay off. It is definitely worth it. And sometimes a lot of the spaces around the outside of the blast radius even turn out to be minerals. So it does pay off sometimes. However, it's not something, unless you're getting real lucky with the minerals, that I would suggest you run back and forth to grab dynamite and start blowing things up all the time. It can actually pay off to just dig. So if anybody else wants to play this title, you do need to download DOSBox. You can find MinerVGA out there on some of the abandonware sites. It's a small title. It's painful on the ears sometimes, but it can be fun. It's not going to replace any of your current titles or anything like that. But it's a fun little diversion. It's kind of an interesting look into early gaming, or well, early PC gaming, I guess. So I'm going to dig up some more titles to play around with, work on some more Minecraft, but until then, this is Amp. Have a good one, folks.